You're listening to the Free Thinkers Club Podcast Network.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of All Factors Considered. Today, we're breaking down UFC Vegas 22. And before you do anything, hit the like button if you thought Derek Brunson was going to pull off the victory. It was a trap game. We all said it, man. And if you was listening to our show before the fight started, you would have known that this was not nearly as one-sided as people were making it out to be. But, you know, to recap the action with me, I got my co-host, as always, AJ, man. How you living, bro? First and foremost, would you rather take the head and arm throw into just the domination for 3 rounds if you were in a fight like Montserrat Ruiz did to Cheyanne Buys, or would you take the domination that Derek Brunson gave to Kevin Holland, the lay and pray style? If you had to choose, which one do you think would be more humiliating and would be like the worst to actually experience in a 3 to 5 round fight?
I think the most humiliating would be the hip throw, arm lock, scarf hold with the beating, like you're getting a noogie from your older brother. Nobody wants that. I'd rather just the lay and pray that Derek Brunson did.
Yeah.
Personally, what do you think?
No, I'm with you, man. The craziest part about it is we talked about it on the show, right? Buys, she knew what was coming the whole entire time, and she couldn't stop it. And that's what made it, to me, that's what made it terrible. So folks listening, folks watching, if you suffer from secondhand embarrassment, it's going to be a long show for you, because there's a lot of people talking a lot of trash, and a lot of people got shut up, you know what I'm saying, on Saturday night, which is why I love the fight game. You can do all the hype, but once we get in the cage, man, enough of that nonsense. Let's see what you about. So let's do a little record recap, man. So for AJ, man, we went 2 and 3 apiece. It's another wash. It's unfortunate that this keeps happening, but hey, it goes to show that, I mean, we pretty solid on our picks, you know what I'm saying? None of us are necessarily having I don't think there's ever been a time where we didn't at least get one fight right out of a 5 card or a 5-fight main card. But nonetheless, I'm at 23 and 29. You're at 24 and 28, respectively. I'm 44%. You're 46%. Still looking pretty good, man. So thought we'd take care of that real quick, and then let's jump straight into the action, if you don't mind, man. I'm going to start the clock, and so since this is a wash, normally I'd ask you want to start at the top of the bottom, but today I think that we should start maybe in the middle-ish, and I want to start off with that, Cheyanne Buys versus Montserrat Ruiz. Her last name is Ruiz, but in the post-fight presser, she said her last name was Conejo, so I don't know, man. It's confusing, but nonetheless, man, she got the job done. A bunch of headlock throws, a little controversy after, but I want to talk about how impressive of a win it was, and how devastating of a night that the Buys household had, man. JP Buys got knocked out, first fight of the night. He got knocked out, I believe, in the first round or the second round. Second round, TKO, and then Cheyanne Buys, man, though she was very formidable, there was nothing she could do to stop that, that wrestling. Montserrat said she was very Khabib-like in the way that she kept going for that scarf hold. So give me some impressions, man. Were you really impressed about what Ruiz was able to do as a specialist with that one headlock throw, or were you thinking that Buys maybe, she was overthinking it? Give me some thoughts.
Yeah, man, I was more impressed with the fact that Ruiz or Conejo was able to do what she did consistently. Like we said, man, Buys knew exactly what was going to happen, and Ruiz, I'll just say Conejo was literally continued to do it. She couldn't stop her. Everybody knew it was coming. That headlock arm throw was coming, and I was just impressed because she was very Khabib-like. She was tenacious, continued to go at it and attack constantly. It was actually very impressive for me, because she was a smaller fighter. She was actually controlling and dominating the bigger fighter. It was impressive.
She's 5 feet tall, man. She's very compact, right? A whole bunch of just mass in a little bowling ball frame, right? But nonetheless, yeah, I agree. It was very impressive, man. But I want to ask you this. Does Ruiz or Conejo, let's just go by Conejo, let's call her that, right? Does she steal the hype of Cheyanne Buys now? Because if you watch the media, you would have thought this was a landslide. This was Cheyanne Buys, just, you know what I'm saying? This is about to be her run, get to the top 15, do all that stuff. Ruiz, who was supposed to fight for a championship in Invicta, has now parlayed that into a UFC opportunity, and now it's looking pretty good, man. I'm not going to sit here and say that Buys, who was making her UFC debut, was going to immediately crack the top 15, but she was already in that top 40 in terms of the prospects, right? So with Ruiz getting that bump up, man, we'll talk matchmaking a little bit later, but I think this elevates her stock like crazy. In terms of that style, though, do you think that works every time, man? If everyone knows what your game plan is, that's the one thing I felt like Buys was picking her apart in kickboxing, in the stand-up, right? But when it came down to the wrestling, there was nothing she could do for that one specific move, that scarf hold. There was nothing for that one move. So as a specialist, man, it's kind of like a Damian Maia, right? It's like this is what I'm going to do. Stop it. And someone's going to stop it eventually. So, give me some thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's hard because it's going back to what I was saying about Khabib, how he was so dominant because he's so specialized in that one aspect.
Yeah.
And it's hard because some people, they'll shoot for takedowns like crazy and get kneed. Other times they'll shoot for takedowns constantly and get it. Just like in the Buys Conejo fight, literally every time they shoot clinch up, she'd get that scarf hold, take her down. It was almost it was unstoppable basically. And it's I see her going very far with this. Especially because if you can't stop it and you're telling people, when MJ or when Randy Moss would say, yo, I'm going to run a slant on you and then run a slant on you and catch that ball, like it's hard to do because he already told you, it's like a confidence factor goes in your head. Personally, I think it did take a lot of the heat or a lot of the shine away from Buys going, doing what she did, completely dominating her for 3 rounds, Conejo completely dominating her for 3 rounds. But I think a little bit was taken away with the after action activities that took place. Now, we'll get into that a little bit, but I mean, I personally think that right there set up the fight for them to go back to it, go back at it again, run it back. But going if anybody can stop her, it seemed like Buys had the blueprint, but obviously not, man. It was very impressive.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. And I'm actually glad you pointed that out because I do feel like this is the makings of kind of a rivalry in the 115-pound division. And I think that later on in the future, give it a couple of years or whatever the case may be, these two will see each other again and they will fight again. And it'll be really interesting to see, how the game plan changes or if it changes or will, Conejo even get to the point where she can challenge again because, like I said, at 5 feet tall, very compact, it's really hard to win fights against rangier opponents unless you're going to your go-to, which is the scarf hold. But like I said, Buys knew she was going for it. She got it a bunch of times. That means that she's just really, really damn good at that little judo throw. But yeah, let's talk about that controversy, right? So after the fight, some words were exchanged, and Cheyanne Buys showed that she's a savage, dude. She's a straight up gangster. She was all like, first off, she alleges that Conejo spit on her after the fight, and I'm not gonna lie, that's what I thought I saw. Now Conejo denies it in the post-fight presser. Who's gonna admit to spitting on somebody though? Nobody would do that. I thought that really tainted the win, but I thought it was really savage for Cheyanne Buys because she was all like, bitch, I'll follow you home. Like, I'm with the shits. Like, what's up? You thought this was a game. And you got a real Mexican, a real brawler, a real fighter in Conejo versus Buys, who, like I said, I just think that she didn't lose too bad. I mean, the performance was bad, but in terms of her stock, I don't think it drops too much because I said that's that personality that sells fights, right? And that'll set this fight up a little bit later. Now, what did you think of that post-fight action, man? Conejo throwing the Diaz, flipping her off and doing all that. I love to see it, but what did you think of it?
I love to see it personally, man. It made me very happy because that's bringing that light that the women's division needs to see, man. We don't have any bad girls. We don't have any people that are just out there, the heels of the sport, like the Colby Covingtons or even the TJ Dillashaw's or, even the Triple C's. Like, we don't have that in the women's division. And it made me excited. But at the same time, I thought, like, if you have all this energy, how come you didn't do that when she had you in a headlock? Like, you didn't put anything on that. And that's not to say she didn't try super hard, but it's leave it all out on the field, man. Leave it all out there. Like we were talking about last week. If you do that, maybe you wouldn't have got held down and noogied.
No, I agree with you. And I guess my last piece on that is that I did think the same exact thing. I said, damn, now you're doing the hold me back. I was like, you just got out of a fight. You just got dominated for 3 rounds. You're going to fight her again? What you think? She's going to do the same thing to you. She's going to put you right back in that. And so to me, that was the funny part because it did seem to me, though, that she was more like, okay, I fought you MMA style. Now I'm ready to street fight. Now I'm ready to poke you in your eyes and do whatever. I don't care. Like she said, she was like, I will follow you home. Like savage, man, savage. But yeah, big underdog win, man. And it wasn't the first, man. We actually had 4 upsets on this card. A great night of fights, man. 6 finishes. So 6 KOs, not just 6 finishes. 6 KOs, no submissions, 4 decisions, no splits, no controversial decisions this time around. So it was really great for the ESPN card because this was on regular ESPN, but we do have to point out that's the last thing the UFC wants to see is people flipping other people off. And, it just kind of makes the sport look a little bad and a little savage and human cockfighter-ish, right? When they do stuff like that. But we have to understand that's the nature of the game, man. These dudes are fighting. We're not playing basketball. They're fighting, right? But let's move on to the next one, man. And the next one that's really notable. So before we hit to the Brunson Holland, you know what I mean? Because it was a little bit of a snooze fest. Let's talk about Adrian Yanez, man. Like I said, secondhand embarrassment. Here's the next case of that. Gustavo Lopez was very, very loud coming into this, very much saying, hey, man, who has this Adrian Yanez kid fought, man? He hasn't fought nobody. Have you seen my last highlights? That's literally what he was saying. And while I respect it, Yanez said it. He was like, this dude's worried too much about my hype and he's not worried about my skill. And Yanez really put it on him. Now, Gustavo Lopez is an individual. He's a very talented fighter who has all the capabilities to win the fight. But it seems like he thought he was thinking a little bit too much and that he was a little too in his mind and a little too ego-filled. And the reason why I say that is because this dude just stayed in the worst possible place that you could be fighting Yanez, and that's out at distance, letting Yanez just use his reach and just pick you apart from distance. Every time you pop in, every time you pop in, hitting good ones, man, to where Lopez, you could even hear him, and this is what I thought was really interesting, AJ. You could hear Lopez being like, okay, let's reset. Like, I'm trying everything and nothing is working until eventually goes for the big ones and dink. That was like that highlight, that picturesque, you get caught just, oh no, right? So listen, Adrian Yanez, he's legit. There's nothing that we can say to discredit that. This kid is legit. This dude, this grown-ass man, this 27-year-old man is legit. And I want to see somebody that's a real deal wrestler that's just going to nonstop wrestle him and see how he fares against that. But nonetheless, man, this is like how Kevin Holland made his rise against a bunch of dudes who were standing up with him and he was just putting them down. So where do you think Adrian Yanez goes from here? Not necessarily matchmaking, but is he a star in the making?
Oh yeah, he's a star in the making for sure. I was actually very hyped on Yanez before this fight, and it was weird to me because Lopez, and we were talking about it, texting back and forth, and he literally did everything besides what we thought he was going to do and push the ground game and push the takedowns. It was crazy to see, because to me the knockout that Yanez had wasn't one of those ones where he was putting it to him and hurting him with every single shot. I feel like Yanez knocked out Lopez strictly because Lopez was moving forward heavy. He was coming in hard, swinging for the fences, and Yanez just touched his button perfect with the left hand, literally shook his whole head. It was a beautiful thing. And I think Yanez moves up really, really highly. And I'm with you in the fact I want to see somebody wrestle him because I think that's the crux of his game, really, is seeing somebody out, take him down, keep wrestling out, keep grinding it out, and actually go for it. Instead of what Lopez did was, like you said, staying in that pocket and make the fight how Yanez wanted the fight to go. So I do think he rises up very heavily, but what do you think?
Well, no, I feel you. I think that the UFC, though, if they're smart, what they do is they build up the prospect, and they don't give anybody to him that is going to just Derek Brunson him and just go for the wrestling. They don't do that until he gets into that maybe top 15, top 10, right? I think that's when they give him that wrestler, the real deal wrestler. But let him rack up these knockouts. Let him keep getting these 50K bonuses, man. He just got bonuses in his last two fights, crazy knockouts in his last two fights. He's legit, man. And the thing that I thought was the most impressive is just his patience, man. This dude is like seeing things in slow motion. He's just on a different plane, and that's what makes him dangerous, is that his kickboxing is incredible, and he's not sitting there rushing his work, right? He's not sitting there like, oh my God, I see red, I'm going to knock you out. He's just like, no, okay, I know you're going to be there. It's just a matter of time, right? And listen, I have nothing but high praises for Yanez, but once again, I told you before in the preview, I'm super high, you know what I mean, on this dude Yanez, but this was the test. He passed the test. That wasn't the real test, though. I need another test. Or this could be the case of me just being like, damn, I'm not recognizing the star that's just passing all of the tests. You know what I mean? Like when Kevin Holland beats Jacare, we're just like, okay, well, this dude's on track to a title, right? But, like I guess let's talk about that one. So, yeah, great fight for Yanez, man. Tough loss for Gustavo Lopez. That's what happens when you talk all that trash, man. Maybe next time, just knock him out and then talk trash after or something. I don't know, man. But like I said, secondhand embarrassment. I'm feeling that one a little bit still. But okay, let's talk about it, man. Derek Brunson fights Kevin Holland. This was 5 rounds. A lot of people weren't expecting it to go the distance, but it went the distance. There were many opportunities on both ends, though, where this fight could have been ended, right? So first, I want to note this out to you. I'm looking at ESPN right now, and I'm seeing just the stats, right? And I'm seeing total strikes. Derek Brunson, 226. Kevin Holland, 190. Now, that makes me feel like I didn't watch the same fight that ESPN watched, because I don't think that they're counting all the Kevin Holland little slaps, the slaps to the ears. And while, yeah, it's goofy, right? It even looks goofy doing that stuff. But, bro, you'll pop somebody's eardrum doing that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to really hurt them, but it's very discomfortable. It's disorienting. You know what I'm trying to say. But nonetheless, man, so there was that I thought was very odd. And then credited knockdowns, 0 apiece to each fighter. If I remember correctly, Kevin Holland dropped Derek Brunson like the second round. Now, Derek Brunson's hand hit the mat and caught himself, but John McCarthy said it on his podcast, the Weighing In podcast. He said that constitutes a knockdown. In boxing, that's a knockdown. If MMA takes so many rules from boxing, why is that not a knockdown. So give me your thoughts on the fight, man. But instead of giving me the Kevin Holland take, give me the Derek Brunson take, man. What did this man do that was so strategic that nobody else was able to do against Kevin Holland?
One thing I really liked about what Derek Brunson did against Kevin Holland. So in the Jacare Souza Kevin Holland fight, I think what made Kevin Holland so dangerous is that he was so friendly and talkative, and he's talking shit. Don't get me wrong. So he's not that friendly, but Jacare was having fun with him. He was smiling. They were talking back and forth. Oh yeah, you clip me, I clipped you. That's fun in games and it's cool. And I think what Derek Brunson did so well is he did the same thing. He was like, okay, cool, talk all your shit, talk all your smack. I'm gonna be friendly, man. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not even gonna hear what you're gonna say. Like, I'm not even gonna acknowledge it. He didn't even play into the mind games that Kevin Holland did, and I think that's exactly why Kevin Holland didn't get on the flow state that he normally does. That it didn't bug Brunson one bit that he was talking shit. He just literally like, all right, cool, man. I'm just gonna take you down. Whoop. Yeah. Shoot this double leg. Whoop. Shoot this single leg. Like, he stayed to the plan. And I think that was what was most impressive to me is he didn't even play the mind games. He was just like, cool, man. Yeah, whatever.
To a degree, though, I kind of disagree. And what I mean by that is I thought that Derek Brunson, he was almost absolutely gassed by round 4, right? You know, this dude was super tired and he was doing a lot of wrestling, so it's understandable and it makes sense. But I kind of feel like he got emotionally drained, right? Kevin Holland, you're just trying to smash this dude with your ground and pound. You said it yourself. You were trying to sit here and trying to take him out with elbows, and you're trying to take him out and, you know, do all of these crazy things, right? And shut the big mouth up. Ultimately, that's what he was trying to do. And since he couldn't do that, I felt like he was just getting more tired. But he had enough energy to just lay on top of Holland and not really do much. And that's kind of what they were noting the entire time is like when Brunson was on top, he didn't do much besides the one blood choke that he attempted that it looked kind of close. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't nothing. You know, Kevin Holland had to be quiet for a little bit and be like, okay, hold on, let me catch my breath real fast. But outside of that, man, I thought Kevin Holland landed the more damaging shots. I thought that he hurt Brunson and, you know, more. But in the game of MMA, ultimately, right, that's just not enough to win the fight. You have to actually win the fight. And when you're on your back for the majority of 5 rounds, so Derek Brunson's control time was 16 minutes and 55 seconds. Almost 17 out of 25 minutes Derek Brunson controlled. So obviously a win is a win. But as our show, you know, the betting show that we have here, all bets aren't created equal. All wins aren't created equal. And this was not a devastating win. This was not a huge win in my book. Yes, the name was big. Yes, you did something that nobody else could do. But then let's flip it. Kevin Holland, right? Though it didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of it, he still lost. He's the first man to take Derek Brunson down in the UFC. There's 183-pound middleweight who's saying, I'm about to move down to welterweight, dude. Like, whatever. I'll fight Bilal Muhammad. It's all good. You know what I mean? Like, does that say anything to you? Like, does that mean anything in the grand scheme of things?
I think it actually spoke volumes because, man, nobody's been able to take Derek Brunson down. And I said it before, I'm not a Derek Brunson fan, but you can't deny that fact. Like, if you've ever been in the ring and somebody shoots to take you down, you're probably getting taken down. Like, unless you're an all-star wrestler, it's just how it goes. Like, they shoot 10 times, you're probably getting taken down 6. It's just how it goes. It's hard to stop. And the fact, and what made me laugh is Kevin Holland was so excited when he took him down. Even Derek Brunson laughed. He was like, all right, like, yeah, you got me, man, cool. And then they got up and he's like, I'm going to take you down again. And literally shot for a double leg instantly. But I think it spoke volumes, especially for how much Kevin Holland cared that he actually was able to take him down. Because everybody knew that was Derek Brunson's game plan. Shoot for the takedown, lay and pray. Beat him up if you can, but hold him down.
But it also goes to show, right, that Kevin Holland wins the fight inside of the fight, right? If that's the game inside the game is getting the takedown on the dude who's never been taken down, that's a win in Kevin Holland's book. You know what I mean? Not getting finished by a dude who's on top of you for 17 minutes. That's a pretty impressive thing to just note down. That's a little mental victory, I guess you could say, that this dude is literally a super small middleweight. Doesn't even barely has to cut weight to get to middleweight. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, once again, this was a Derek Brunson smash spot. You know what I mean? In terms of like how the fight actually played out, this was his opportunity to really boost and you know, propel himself up to, you know, that top 5 legitimately. And I don't think he did enough, man. I don't think it was impressive enough, especially when you got a dude who Kevin Holland, he said it himself. He was like, Kevin Holland was talking to me and he had no urgency. He wasn't trying to get up. So instead of engaging and talking back, I just kind of let him do his thing and be like, dude, you're dumb. Like, I'm just going to win this fight easy. But instead of just winning the fight, coasting out to a victory, how about you really knock him out? You couldn't knock out the big mouth. So I think that's a mental loss for Derek Brunson. And although a win is a win is a win, once again, we gotta congratulate the man and throw some respect on the man's name. But like I said, I think he just kind of wasted an opportunity a little bit. Ooh, I got some light on me. Hold on, let me move out the way. All right,
Yeah,
so
you could even see it in the end. His body language said the same thing. He won the fight, but he really lost it.
yeah, exactly, man. So listen, that's the big one, and we'll talk about where they go in a second here. But I just want to note one last thing before we kind of move on to these last two fights on the main card. AJ, you just said it a little bit earlier. You're like, dude, I'm not a fan of Derek Brunson whatsoever in MMA, right? Because we realize that MMA is more than just wins and losses, right? A lot of it is about your personality. A lot of it is about how many butts can you put in the seat. How entertaining are you? And Derek Brunson just put on a showcase of how he is the least entertaining fighter in the middleweight division by far with the lay and pray methodology, which I'm surprised that Herb Dean didn't stand them up more because Derek Brunson inactivity. So how far do you think he can go with that type of style, man? Do you ever anticipate this man challenging for a title with that style?
No, not one bit. I think that's an easy question. I also don't think Dana's going to even let him fight anyone notoriety wise. It's hard to say. I mean, as a fan, I don't enjoy watching a wrestling match when I could just go watch a wrestling match. If you're going to take somebody down and beat them up, like finish the fight, do it like you would if this is the actual real streets. But I don't see him going much of anywhere. I don't even see his stock rising, to be completely honest, because he's proved more so that he is a gatekeeper. And Kevin Holland might not have crossed that gate this time, but you're still holding it open for a lot of other prospects.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. And ultimately, he something that he had said was that Dana White, he's like, he'll be mad at you for one fight and then you knock somebody out and then he'll be all in love and all happy with you the next fight. So he's like, I don't care what people think. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, call out Paulo Costa and fight the Paulo Costas. And like I said, we'll hit that on the matchmaking. But right before we do that, let's knock out these last couple fights, man. We had two big knockouts. Two not very long fights, right? So Song Kenan versus Max Griffin, right? Max Griffin, he says, listen, man, this dude is only effective when he moves forward. So what did he do? He walked down the bully and knocked him out, and he put him to sleep. It was the only fight of the entire night where someone was put to sleep, right? So listen, not much to say about Song Kenan. It was kind of predictable how it was going on. But listen, you weren't super high on Max Griffin coming into this one. Do you have any changed thoughts?
Woo! I think I was one of the loudest I ever shouted in a while because he did exactly that, Derek. He walked down the bully and put it to him. It was that I don't remember exactly what we sent in the messages, but I literally was screaming, man. It was such a fun fight to watch, and it was I don't really have much besides I'm a believer. I'm a believer, man. He put it to Song Kenan, and it was very impressive. And I don't remember if it was a right or a left, but when he hit him up against the fence and you saw him just go stiff, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's the future. He has a lot of potential, and although in the welterweight division, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes, because I definitely think there's a lot of interesting talent out there that we're going to see him against, and I have a couple ones that we can get into, man. And I'm very I'm put on notice. Let me just say that Max Griffin has put me on notice for sure. And I love the taste of crow whenever you give me a first round knockout like that, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's doing, two big knockouts in a row, man, or I guess the Raheem Brahimaj was a TKO. But yeah, man, very impressive for Max Griffin, man. He's been in this game for a long time, but he's finally showcasing that he can be a premier fighter at this level. You know what I mean? Like he's really about it. So really interesting to see, but you know what I'm saying? Not much to talk about when you just go and knock somebody out like that, but I love to see it nonetheless. Now, lastly, Tai Tuivasa, he gets a 2-day replacement, Harry Hunsucker. And listen, man, Hunsucker looked like he was just happy to be there. He was like, I love, this was my shot in the UFC. But Tai Tuivasa says, listen, man, I'm trying to get pissed drunk and get the fuck out of here. Let me knock you out, give you the big calf kick, make you look like you just witnessed death himself, the Grim Reaper himself, right? That's what Harry Hunsucker looked like. But you can't blame a man who had a 20-pound disadvantage in terms of the contest, man. And listen, 20 pounds on anybody is a lot, especially in that heavyweight division. But Tai Tuivasa, he did what he needed to do. If he would have lost this, it would have been terrible for him. But this win also doesn't really do anything for him either. It's unfortunate because I don't think Dante Almeida, I don't think a win over him would have did much either. But nonetheless, man, I'm excited to see him. I wish I would have saw the shoey. You know what I mean? I don't know how hygienic that is in these COVID days. But nonetheless, man, great fights, man. So let's, right before we get into a little bit of matchmaking, AJ, I just want to shout out the one other individual or the two other individuals that got some bonuses on this one because I think they did a great job. And sometimes we do need to talk about those prelims, man. So Bruno Silva, first fight of the night, man, knocks out JP Buys. First off, I thought JP Buys, I don't know if you caught the fight or not, AJ, but I thought JP Buys came out way too relaxed against a dude who was literally fighting for his life. And what I mean by that is he knew he had to win this fight if he wanted to remain in the UFC. And there's a sense of urgency, which is why I kind of always like to give an edge to the fighter who is like back against the wall. It's either a good thing or a bad thing. You know, if it's good, right, then they come out with the urgency and they come to kill. If it's bad, you try to force the action a little bit too much. And it seems like that's how the fight started off because JP Buys got hit in the nuts and eye poked within like the first 30 seconds of the fight by Silva. And then Silva just came out and said, fuck it. All right, I'll get him out of here. You know, he had Henry Cejudo in the corner, all that good stuff, man. Very, very impressive. Big win for him. Don't really, have anything else that I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to shout him out, man. Were you impressed? Was it a very impressive victory to you?
Yeah, I mean, what was nice is seeing him change mentally. Like he was going, like you said, the first fight kicked him in the nuts within like the first 10 seconds, and then poked him in the eye next. And you saw him mentally change. Like, all right, we got to take this guy down. We got to wrestle it up. We got to go. We got to do what Triple C's been teaching me. So.
Yeah. So impressive. And then lastly, Grant Dawson, man, we got to talk about it simply because, listen, the latest stoppage in UFC history, 1 second left, 4:59 in the third round, right? Leonardo Santos, man, this dude looked like a 41-year-old fighting because he had it in the first round. He looked like, oh, I'm just going to play this out to a nice victory. And in MMA, you cannot do that. You just can't do it, man. You know what I mean? It's not safe to do that in this sport. And he paid for it with some of the most vicious hammer fists from top position I've ever seen in my entire life, man. So, Grant Dawson, I thought he was going to lose that fight, but it goes to show that the judges actually had him up, which was very, very surprising to me. I don't have it in front of me right now because obviously it went to a stoppage, so I don't have those scores. But nonetheless, man, hammer fist. I just want to say, man, this is your premier highlight reel for heel hooks gone wrong. This is why, and I guess same to say for Roman Dolidze, who lost to Trevin Giles, right? When you're sitting there cranking on a heel hook and you just got yourself so deep in there trying to actually crank and your face is wide open, guess what? Not everybody's Ryan Hall. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody could pull all those heel hooks off and not just get starched in their face. So do you have any thoughts for the people who say heel hooks win every single time? Do you got any words for the jiu-jitsu proponents of the MMA world?
Man, jiu-jitsu wins when you're not getting cracked in the chin. Yeah. I don't really have much for that one besides, I guess, the biggest takeaway from this fight to me was don't give up, man, because that dude, in all accounts for my scoring and even on the telecasters, everyone had what's the name losing, Grant Dawson losing. But man, don't give up. That all you need is a couple good cracks to the chin and you can go home with 50 Ks.
Yep. I agree, man. So, like I said, shout out to Grant Dawson. Shout out to Bruno Silva, man. Love to see a bunch of knockouts on the cards. When you got 6 of them, it's really hard to find out who's going to get the performance bonus. And it's evident that, listen, we haven't had too many fight of the nights recently. In the last couple of weeks, there have been no fight of the nights. It's only been performance bonuses. So, love to see it, man. But let's move on to our segment of keeping it pushing, man. Some UFC Vegas 22 matchmaking for the main card winners. Let's start off with Derek Brunson, man. He comes in, he climbs to 22-7 for his record. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He was ranked in the UFC at number 7 going into this fight. Now, my estimated ranking for him will remain at 7. You're not moving up for beating a dude who's ranked behind you. But this is going to be interesting, man. So I got 2 potential matchups, and I really only want to share one because one is only, makes the most sense to me. It was really hard, AJ. It was really hard to matchmake for Brunson. I was like, where does this man go? Where do you go next? And the only fight that makes sense to me is a dude who is unfortunately coming off of a loss. But like I said, it's the only fight that makes sense to me. Number 6 ranked Jack Hermanson, 21-6, man. I would like to see him fight some other people. But like I said, if we had to choose a fight and we had to go forward in the rankings, this is the only one that I see. What do you think?
That I actually like that Jack Hermanson fight more than who I was going with. Because I was thinking Costa, just because I'm also not a fan of Costa. 2 people that I don't really want to watch fight. Might as well go at it. But I was also thinking Cannonier, but I don't like that matchup. I like Jack the Joker way more than I like the Cannonier fight. Brunson's a hard one for me, man, because Who do you want to see Brunson fight?
Nobody. I'm not that lay and pray. I don't want to see that against anybody, man. You can continue to be the gatekeeper that fights these up and comers. I like that a lot more than saying anybody in the top 5. Even Jack Hermanson, I was like, I don't know. And Paulo Costa, the only reason why I like that is because one, he called him out, and two, I think Paulo Costa, now that we've seen kind of more of what his game is against the top 5, we're starting to see that he might be a 5 to 10 ranked fighter. You know what I mean? He might fit that category a little bit better than 1 to 5. And number 3, then it's like if Brunson wins, him at 3, all right, you got to give him like a title shot. And it's like, is that what you want to see? Listen, if he keeps winning, you got to give him a title shot, and it is what it is. I don't want to see it, but I will be fair in MMA. So yeah, either one of those matchups sound good to me, but I'm not excited about the prospects of Derek Brunson. No disrespect, man. I want to be a little entertained, right? So Max Griffin next, man. 170 pounds, moved up to 17-8. He's on a 2-fight win streak, and he was not ranked prior to this fight. He's not going to be ranked after this fight. But what I do think is interesting is this one potential matchup, man. He's ranked in the kind of mid 40s in the welterweight division right now, Max Griffin. But I'd like to see him step up and fight Michel Paeta, man. He's about number 30 or so. I just think it'd be a very interesting clash of styles. Paeta is 25-11. 2 no contest, but he's on a 2-fight win streak, so I think that's important too. What you think?
That's actually who I wrote down as well, Michel Pereira, as well as another one, interesting one to be Tim Means. Just as I think Griffin needs somebody with a little bit more name notoriety. So either of those, Pereira or Tim Means, would be an amazing fight to me.
Well, yeah. you know what's interesting though, man. So Griffin is pushing for this top 5, and AJ, real quick, man, turn me down on your speaker a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of feedback, but so yeah, good looks, man. So Max Griffin, he's really pushing for this top 15, man. He's like really like, I need either a big name or I need a ranked dude. Like, that's all I'm looking for right now. So how about someone who's not ranked but is a big name? Santiago Ponzinibbio. You know what I'm saying? He's just outside the top 15. Doesn't look like Ponzinibbio is having that same hype, even though dude was on like an 8-fight win streak or something crazy like that prior to his last loss. What do you think about that matchup?
That sounds good. Ponzinibbio?
Yeah.
Hasn't really had too much shine, but still coming up.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, man. So next one, Montserrat Ruiz, right? And, we can kind of, roll through these ones really quickly because, like I said, when you got these non-ranked fighters, it's really, you could choose anybody, right? So my thought process for Montserrat Ruiz is, yeah, you stole the hype of Cheyanne Buys, right? And that's totally cool. But Cheyanne Buys wasn't a top 15 fighter, man. She was a prospect who was trying to really make a run, right? So since she's kind of in this limbo spot, I think that this would be an interesting matchup just to test the wrestling, right? So Loma Lookboonmee is ranked about 25 right now in the strawweight division. Now, she's formerly an atomweight fighter who's moving up. Understandable. Got it, right? But she has a fight booked already. So she's about number 25, but she's taking a step back and fighting Sam Hughes, who's ranked about 66 on the Tapology rankings, and that fight's taking place on May 1st. I would like to see Montserrat Ruiz test her wrestling against the winner of Lookboonmee versus Hughes, and I think the winner will be Lookboonmee personally. What do you think about that?
Lookboonmee. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot lower. This one is a hard one for me because it's like, who do I want to see a short little 5-foot girl fight? And I went super high on the list, so I don't even think, I'll be clear, I don't think any of these fights are actually going to happen.
Sure.
But, excuse me, Amanda Ribas or Mallory Martin. I think either of those would be really good. But personally, I like the Lookboonmee fight a lot more just because, like I said, I think both of my fights are just so outreaching that it's not going to happen. So I definitely think the Lookboonmee would be a little bit better, a little more attainable.
I dig it. Here, man. Catch your breath, man. Let me take over for a little bit. I got you, bro. So listen, man. Ultimately, moving on to the next fight, right? I thought that was, ultimately, like Ribas, I don't know if that's going to happen. Martin, I don't know if that's going to happen. But I do believe that at the end of the day, man, we need to step up in competition for Ruiz. If she was about to fight for a title in Invicta, it only makes sense. Give her some type of, legitimate competition after this fight, especially after a big win like that. So, Adrian Yanez, man, next up, he already called out Nate Maness, who is ranked number 47 or so. And I thought that was interesting. I thought he would want to go way, way higher, but it looks like he's trying to build himself up the right way. Now, Nate Maness already has a fight booked against Tony Gravely, who is ranked number 57. He's at 20-6. Nate Maness is at 13-1. Maness is on a 3-fight win streak. Gravely's on a 1-fight win streak, and they fight on April 17th. So what do you think about the winner of that, or do you think he should be climbing up the rankings a little bit faster?
Oh, man, if I was him, I would shoot a lot higher. I think he actually fought on this card, and I think a good matchup for him would be Montel Jackson.
Oh,
yeah. They just fought. Like, it'd be a good scrap. Or somebody who I think We talked about him before, Said Nurmagomedov.
Mm-hmm.
Send him somebody who's going to wrestle him the whole time so we can actually see what this dude's worth and see how his ground game performs. But I like that Jackson fight too, man. That'll be entertaining.
I like that Jackson fight more than I like the Nurmagomedov fight because I think you just need another fight before you get to that level, right? That's a really high level to go to Nurmagomedov already because he's like mid-20s, I think, right now. But yeah, man, Montel Jackson looked like an absolute killer. Now, he fought a dude who was very, 9-day replacement or whatnot, but he still looked like a killer. Starched this dude, man. And both of those dudes, I think it was Jesse Strader who he fought. Both of those dudes savages, but Montel Jackson, yeah. They call him quick for a reason. This dude's got thunder blazing hands, right? But that's a good one, man. So Tai Tuivasa, this is really difficult for me as well because I'm like, dude, where do you go? You can't. There's a lot of people that he can't fight simply because he's coming off of a loss just recently to Sergey Spivak, right? So it's like, all right, where do we put you, man? I'm thinking the winner of 19th ranked Ben Rothwell against Felipe Lins. They're fighting on May 8th, and that makes sense to me. And the reason why is because I was like, well, I'd like to give him someone who's coming off of a win. Now Tuivasa's on a 2-fight win streak, but if you look at the majority of the heavyweight division from about number 5 to about number like 20, they're all like coming off a loss. Like almost everybody has lost. So it's like only the people in the top 5 are on an active win streak. What do you think about that? Or do you have anything else in mind to go for Tai Tuivasa, go for Bam Bam?
No, I saw the Ben Rothwell fight as well. I definitely like that, but I did see he was fighting, so I didn't write it down. One of them that I wrote down was Blagoy Ivanov, and now that'd be really hard, especially Blagoy's going to tap you out.
That's a
or
rematch.
If you want to feed him to another up and comer, Tom Aspinall would be a good banger of a match.
Sure,
but I definitely.
That Blagoy Ivanov that would be a rematch. Ivanov just starched Tuivasa just a couple fights ago, so it'd be interesting to see them run it back, but I just don't know. I think he'd have to run it back against Spivak before he runs it back against Ivanov. Ivanov is the only dude who I think has actually bell-to-bell beat Tuivasa. Everybody else, it was very, very close. But when you watch the Ivanov fight, that's 3 rounds of just domination from.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but that's where Tuivasa's ground game was exposed, right? That was the first fight, or did he lose to JDS first?
He lost to JDS first, and then he fought Ivanov, and then lost that, and then he fought Spivak, and Spivak was the fight where he got taken out like 7 times, though. So Ivanov,
that was the one.
Yeah. So either one, man. That's why I'm saying it's hard to move him really up because it's like, all right, bro. Well, you already lost to these dudes. You've already lost. He's lost to Ivanov, to Spivak, and to and JDS, but he's no longer in the picture anymore. But yeah, man, that's the matchmaking. That's the matchmaking we got. This was one of the harder slates of matchmaking that I've had to deal with, simply because you got a lot of unranked fighters versus. Like I said, when you're already fighting these dudes in front of you, it's very hard to be like, all right, we'll jump them up ahead of them. For what? Especially when it's a convincing loss. But lastly, man, we'll hit this word on the street, man, and see what we got in the MMA newswire. So we got something that's actually pertinent to what's happening next week, right? UFC 260. We got Stipe Miocic, the returning, defending heavyweight champion of the world, baddest man on the planet, facing off against the dude who's considerably the second baddest man on the planet because he's just the scariest dude on the planet, who is Francis Ngannou. Knock you out with just skimming the side of your head, knock you out. You know what I mean? That type of power. Nonetheless, fortunately, that is still taking place, right? That matchup is still intact. But Alexander Volkanovski tests positive for COVID. He says he tested negative when he left New Zealand or Australia or wherever it is he's from. He tested negative when he first got to Vegas, but then they did another test and he popped for COVID. So the championship bout against Brian Ortega, T-City, it's off of 260, but it will be postponed to a later date. So, I mean, there's that. That means the featherweight division is being on hold just a little bit longer. AJ, man, how long is it going to take until Max Holloway gets another shot at the belt, man?
Man, that's exactly who I feel worse for is Max Holloway. Although ultimately, at the end of the day, he's the one that didn't finish the fight, so you can't feel too bad for him. But man, I think it's going to be so if Brian Ortega wins this fight, you got to give the rematch to Volkan. You got to give the Volkanovski rematch. You have to. So that means Max is waiting even longer. Yeah. So now they're going at for number 3. Let's say, they do hit the rubber match, man, he could be out as long as a year, maybe even a little longer, which is, it's sad to see for the Blessed Express, man. I thought 2020 and 2021 was his year. But yeah, Max Holloway could definitely be riding a long bench, a long bench road, man. Cause yeah, it's, if Ortega wins, you have to give him the rematch. That's the thing.
I agree. And it looks like we're having the same exact scenario take place at bantamweight and at featherweight, right? Because while Max Holloway is basically the Corey Sandhagen of the featherweight division, where he's just like, all right, bro, like this is the worst possible event that could happen. Is like I have to wait longer. I'm just waiting for the title shot. Corey Sandhagen, which I guess moves us to our next piece of news. It's confirmed that his next opponent is going to be TJ Dillashaw. You know, they're going to headline the event on May 8th that we just talked about a little bit earlier, right? I feel like it's super unfair that Sandhagen has to fight TJ Dillashaw. It doesn't make sense to me. I think TJ Dillashaw would have been better off against so many other opponents, but for this one specifically, I'm just like, okay. So is this what you're telling me? If you're telling me Corey Sandhagen loses this fight against TJ Dillashaw, let's just say that he does. He goes to the back of the line after everything that he just did. Like, I don't envision him losing a fight, especially if it's like kind of a handy decision loss. You know what I mean? I just can't see any way that he fights for a title anytime soon. So it's like to put him through this much of a test is kind of like how Max Holloway was like, dude, I had to win like 8 fights in a row before I got a title shot. Like that type, you know what I mean? The Charles Oliveira, where now Charles Oliveira, I guess we could talk about that one too, right? Chandler Oliveira has been confirmed. It'll be the fighting for the vacant lightweight belt since Khabib is officially retired. Dude's been retired for months now, but officially retired. But it's like one of those where Oliveira had to fight 8 fights and then needed to have miraculous string of luck and opportunity to fall his way just to get the title shot. So I don't know, man. This is really concerning to me because I'm a really big fan of Corey Sandhagen. But I don't know. Do you think, let's do an early preview, man. What do you think his odds are against TJ Dillashaw? Do you think he'll be able to handle the wrestling? Because that's the one where I'm just like, I'm not as concerned about the striking, man. But TJ Dillashaw can wrestle you and he can hold you on the ground. So what do you think?
That's the one crux where I was feeling TJ Dillashaw actually has, what I was going to say, is a chance in this fight. I think Corey Sandhagen, hands and feet above TJ Dillashaw, especially because we haven't seen him, we haven't seen him perform. Mm-hmm. And anytime you got to stick a needle in your ass or cheat to get ahead, man, you lose a lot of respect. So I definitely think this is a big chance for Corey Sandhagen and a big time to jump up, to actually solidify that he is the number 1 contender. But it's still, man, it's so shitty that he has to go through all of that just because, an illegal knee, and nothing that he could control. So it's hard to say. But personally, I think Corey Sandhagen should do really well against, unless TJ Dillashaw comes out with something that we haven't ever seen him do, unless he comes out and actually really puts it to Sandhagen, is able to control distance, get on the inside, take him down, and beat him up. I don't know if I really see that happening. It did happen against Aljo. He got choked out pretty early, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm really excited for this fight. I'm a big Corey Sandhagen fan, and I think it's a good opportunity for him to take out greatness because TJ Dillashaw is very great.
I mean, listen, at this point, TJ Dillashaw, he never necessarily lost his belt, right? He got it taken away because he got popped for cheating, right? But he didn't lose his belt. So if he wins, you can argue that, hey, Corey Sandhagen has a win over a champion that was never necessarily dethroned. So it will be interesting. And last 30 seconds, I guess we can give a little extra time after the clock, but I just want to talk about this really quickly before we head out of here. Julia Stoliarenko, passes out twice on the scale. You know what I mean? She had to be stretchered out of there. She made weight still. But that's the name of the game when we're talking about weight cutting, right? And John McCarthy, he says it best. He says, one day you're playing Russian roulette with this weight cutting thing, and one day somebody will die. Somebody will die due to a compromised weight cut. The question becomes, how do we need to get how would you say, kind of a more of a regulation as to weight cutting, right? It feels like you can weight cut as long as you get the weight off. That's all people care about. But obviously you have teams like Henry Cejudo's team who was like, we take a complete science approach to this, nutrition approach to this, while you got dudes like Brian Ortega where for the longest he was just doing all of his nutrition, all of his weight cutting, all that out of his garage. So what did you think about seeing how, dude, she passed out. So give me your reaction on that. And do you think that we're just heading to a point, just like football, where MMA is going to start getting cleaned up for safety precautions? What do you think?
I mean, it's hard because weight cutting is legal cheating. Yeah. Everyone's doing it. Like I weigh 170 pounds. If I was fighting, I'd want to fight at 155 or 145, excuse me. Yeah. I'd want to cut even more because 155 is absolutely savage. So,
yeah, for real.
But man, it's hard because you don't want to see anybody collapse for weight. You don't they're dehydrating, they're killing your body. It's a sad look, especially because now you didn't get your payday. You did all that work. You went through all that strife just to collapse and not get paid now. It's hard, man. It's like Big John said, if somebody's going to die, especially because that's what it is. It's health. You're dehydrating your body so much that your liver is shutting down, your body's shutting down. I personally would love to see them go at it how one does and how they have the
rehydration.
They stop the weight cutting. Yeah, the water, the whatever, because ultimately, that's the reason we have a referee and a medic, ringside. Because if it was just up to us, we would continue fighting no matter what, So
Yeah.
I would like to see it because it make it a little more even, a little. But it's hard though, because it's part of the.
It's part of the culture.
This one's going to go on forever. This argument will go on forever. So
I agree with you. And when you talk to a lot of high-level fighters and you ask them, can you ever remove weight cutting from the sport? And they say no. There's just no other way around it, man. This is what we do in our sport. Just like wrestling. Wrestling does the same exact thing, you know what I mean? Except they're not punching each other in the face. But nonetheless, man, that's what we got for you this week, folks. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoy the content that we're putting out, man. Send a comment, send a DM to us on Instagram or whatever the case may be. If you enjoy the picks, if you enjoy the analysis, because that's what we do every single week, man. We put 3 shows out a week, and we do a lot of film study, a lot of homework to make sure that the people who deserve to know, get the information they need to make some money, to get their picks right, earn a little street cred, some credit with your friends, whatnot, picking on the fights and whatnot, because while we would all love to be fighters, man, at the end of the day, man, it's not for everybody, bro. And you know what I mean? Sometimes we just have a little more fun watching from our couches at home, you know what I mean, on TV and whatnot. But that's it for us this week, man. Until next time, folks. Until next time, peace.